If you're running or planning to run Facebook ads in 2021 or beyond, and you want to know how the iOS 14 privacy policy update will impact your campaigns, then you're at the right video, as I'm going to tell you who's going to be impacted, how they will be impacted, and what you can do right now to prepare yourself for this update. All right, so a quick overview of our agenda. First, we're going to talk about what exactly is the iOS 14 update from Apple. Then we're going to break down, who's going to be impacted by this, how they're going to be impacted. We're going to break down how Facebook is responding to this and what you can do right now to set yourself up for this update. And then the last thing at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you a Facebook ads cheat sheet that I hope will help you guys out, that has a lot of the tactical things that I use to help my ads be more effective. So this is what is happening essentially with this iOS 14 update that Apple is rolling out. The update has already taken place, so people are using iOS 14 on their mobile devices. And what they've added is these privacy cards that you'll see here on the screen that are going to show up when you go to download an app. Now, this doesn't really seem like a big deal because not everybody goes into the details always when they're downloading an app. A lot of times they just find the app and then they download it right away. The problem that is coming from this is because Apple has created this app tracking transparency prompt that when you go to download these apps or update the software, it's going to tell you, hey, this app is going to be using your data, and it's going to give you this information up front. And now users will have the option to say, hey, I don't want this app to track my data, or I'm going to allow them. Now, historically, Apple has given iOS device users the opportunity to opt out. And where they've done this is actually within your iPhone. There's an area where there's something called an IDFA, which is an identifier for advertisers, and they've given people the option to opt out. The problem is that it's been basically hidden. So you have to go into your settings, and most people end up not opting out. So in the US market alone, there's over 100 million Apple iPhone users, which is 1/3 of the population. That's a big amount of people. And 30% of those people have gone into their iPhone or into their Apple iOS devices, and they've found this setting and they've opted out of sharing. The problem is that with this new prompt that people are going to have when they actually download these social platforms like Facebook or Instagram, they're going to have that option up front, and experts predict that with this iOS 14 update, as much as 50 to 90% of those 100 million app users in the US market alone are going to opt out. Now, Facebook has responded first with doing this whole PR campaign, buying ads to basically say, hey, this update is going to hurt advertisers on Facebook. It's going to hurt businesses, and what Apple's doing is, not really aligned to the best interest to all these small businesses. And they've even said that they're going to put a prompt before Apple's prompt to educate people on the benefits of them sharing their data with Facebook. So we'll see how that part of it pans out. Now, Tim Cook has actually been pretty adamant of his position and Apple's position on this. And here's a quick excerpt from a recent video that he published.
If a business is built on misleading users, on data exploitation, on choices that are no choices at all, then it does not deserve our praise. It deserves reform.
So it seems like Tim Cook and Apple aren't backing down from this anytime in the near future. Quick disclaimer, as I make this video, I want to make you guys aware that this is an evolving topic and the information is going to change as these things actually get implemented. Now, Apple, although it has been rolling out its iOS 14 update in the US market and abroad, this specific privacy policy enforcement has not been actually enforced yet. There's not an actual date for this. This is something that they're changing, and they're basically been telling the app store users and social platforms at large that this is coming, but there's not an actual date yet. So just keep in mind, this video is not going to give you everything. It's going to give you everything I know so far, but information might change. So who is going to be impacted and how? So there's 3 types of people that are going to be impacted. Number 1, if you're using a Facebook to advertise for your app, whether that's driving app installs or whether you allow people to purchase services or products from you within your app, you will be impacted from this. The second category, which I feel like this is probably going to be you and the majority of the people watching this video, are pixel reliant advertisers. So if you have an e-com website, if you do drop shipping, if you just sell products online, you're going to be impacted by this. If you're using Facebook ads for lead generation, you're also going to be impacted by this. The third category is anyone who's a publisher who is monetizing their app using Facebook Audience Network, which allows ads to be basically placed within these apps that advertisers could tap into. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to focus on the pixel reliant advertisers, which are the ones doing e-com and lead generation. So essentially, with this new privacy change, Apple created what they called the private click network, which is basically a new protocol by Apple for tracking purposes, specifically for people who are opting out that don't want to share their data. Now, this is designed with a privacy first mindset, which has been Apple's sort of whole thing in all of this. They're trying to protect consumers. That's the way that they're positioning all this. But it doesn't really take into account how advertisers are using this data. So Facebook built their version of a protocol called AEM, which is Aggregated Event Measurement. And this protocol from Facebook actually is designed to keep both, measurement and privacy in mind while supporting, an advertiser's use case. So for pixel reliant advertisers, what did things look like before and what is it going to look like afterwards? Well, to start with, before you could put as many pixels you wanted on a website. Now, there could be different reasons for this. I would assume most people probably watching this just had one Facebook ad account, one Facebook pixel on one website. Moving forward, you will only be able to put one pixel per domain, and you have to verify your domain, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. The next thing is before, you can have an unlimited amount of standard events. So standard events would be a purchase event. It could be someone who viewed content. It could be someone who submitted a lead. It could be someone who went to a contact page. Those are standard events that you had to tell Facebook what kind of actions were being taken. And you could also create custom conversions. So if you wanted to tag people that clicked on certain buttons or just really wanted to get specific with your funnel and tag a lot of micro conversions, you could do that. Moving forward, you're going to have a limit of only 8 events that can be tracked. This is including both your standard and your custom events for measurement and optimization. And then the last thing is the attribution window is changing. Before, you could look at your default was 28 days click, 1 day view. So someone that clicked on your ad and purchased within 28 days, or if they viewed your ad and didn't click within 1 day, that would get attributed to your campaigns. Moving forward, the default window is going to be 7-day click. And I'm going to be talking to you about a way that you can sort of do an exercise now to evaluate what that might look like to help yourself get better set up in the upcoming slide. So let me just make this more clear, because I know this could be so complex and very hard to understand. So let's just say a typical person that sees your ad on Facebook, right? They click on your ad, they land on your website, and they convert. Here's the 2 different scenarios that can play out depending if they're giving you their data or if they're not giving you their data. So remember that prompt that we showed you at the top of this video? When they download that app, they're going to have that option up front to say, we're going to give you or we're not going to give you our data. Now, if they decide to opt out and not share their data, what's going to happen is only one event will fire. So if they clicked on your ad, went to your website and purchased, and you prioritize that to be your number 1 event, you will see that information in your Facebook Ads Manager. You will be able to use that to optimize. You'll be able to have your attribution. Great, right? But if they go to your website and they don't buy, what's going to happen is whatever the most prioritized action they took, let's say it was adding something to cart, that is what's actually going to show up. Everything else is not going to show up. If they decide to opt in and share your data, what's going to happen now is that you'll be able to see all of your top 8 events. So for example, if they landed on your website, viewed content, then added an item to cart, that's a second event. Then they initiated a checkout. Then they went to a payment confirmation screen, and then they purchased. So those might be like top 5 events. If they opted in, You will have all that information in Facebook Ads Manager. You'll be able to see it. You'll be able to use it for future optimization or custom audience building. If they didn't, you will only get your top event. Hopefully your top event is either a lead, or if you're doing lead generation, or it's going to be a purchase if you're doing e-com. Another thing that is happening because of all this is that Facebook's algorithm is going to have visibility and signal loss, which is going to impact performance of campaigns. So if you can imagine right now, we have all this data that we have available to us. The algorithm could use that to dynamically optimize. So in this world, I might get an ad that looks like this, where I'm like, oh, this is dope. I'm going to buy this. In the future world, we're going to have less data. So I might get an ad that looks like this, and I'm like, not exactly what I was interested in. Less data means performance is going to decrease. By how much? We're not exactly sure yet, but that will be something that you want to keep top of mind with all these changes. Another thing you could expect is a reduction in your custom audiences, specifically your website retargeting pools. Because if people are going to your website, but they opted out of sharing data, now there's a chance that, those users aren't showing up. So you could have had, a larger retargeting pool in the past. Now that might be shrinking down a little bit less. So again, something that will impact performance, because there could be people now that you're targeting in your retargeting campaign, but you're also hitting them in your prospecting campaign and essentially wasting money. So to look at this from another angle and sort of deep dive, what iOS basically has said is that with this privacy policy change, there's going to be data aggregation, there's going to be restrictions on certain types of data, and there's going to be data delays. So that leads to visibility and signal loss of cross-device activity. So if I'm using my mobile phone, I see an ad, but then I go to the website and I buy on my laptop, I might lose some of that data. If I was before tagging, many micro conversions on my website so I could see my entire funnel, now I can't use those 40 custom conversions. So I'm going to have a limitation of what I can see from that perspective. And also for longer purchase cycles. If before, on average, it took somebody maybe 3 weeks to buy from me after they clicked on my ad, before you had that 28-day click, 1-day view window by default. Now you can only do a 7-day click. So those longer purchase cycles, you're not going to have that visibility to. Net, you're going to have less data. So overall, it's going to impact performance of your conversion and your catalog sales campaigns. So what can you do? Well, the first thing is you should go into Facebook Business Manager and verify that you are the sole owner of your domain, because you're going to need to do this in order to be able to prioritize those events that we talked about. Only the domain, only the person who's verified that domain can actually change those events. Then you're going to want to pick which are the top 8 events that are most important to you. My guess, in reverse chronological order, is actually starting from the most important is purchase, then payment confirmation, then initiated checkout, then added to cart, then viewed content. Backwards, that'd be they landed on the website, they added a product to the cart, they started the process to buy, they confirmed their payment, and then they bought, which the purchase the purchase event, that'll probably be on your thank you page. If you're doing lead generation, where they submit a lead, that thank you confirmation page is probably going to be the most important thing. And then the last thing is, if you are going to be doing app install campaigns or in-app monetization, specifically for anybody that you're targeting on iOS 14 devices, you are actually going to have to create a separate ad account for that. And you're going to have to, basically run your ads on that ad account just for iOS 14. And you can only now have one app tied to one ad account. Now there's a resource center within Facebook Ads Manager that's going to give you all this information that you're going to need to do in order to set yourself up for the future. So you can go check that out. Now, a quick exercise that I would highly recommend you do now that you could still see your full 28-day, 1-day click performance is for you to do an analysis of, go to one of the campaigns that you typically run, see how many conversions you get, and look at it from a 28-day click, 1-day view window, and compare it to the 7-day click only. So here's an example. Let's say if you're selling a product that has a short buyer cycle, meaning that they see the ad and they tend to convert relatively quick. So you might see that from a 28-day view perspective, you get 100 conversions. From a 7-day, it's 80 conversions. So the change is minimal. It's 20%. So what you won't want to do is write down that multiplier, that change percentage, turn it into a multiplier. So for the future, when you see a campaign that gets 80 conversions, you could say, okay, this probably is actually giving me 100 conversions. And if you're using Google Analytics and other software and other tools, you can use that also to sort of kind of like verify as well. Now, for a longer buyer cycle, this is where you're probably going to be impacted. If you're doing something like real estate, selling cars, travel, vacations, tourism, things that take a couple of weeks for people to research or a couple of months and make a decision, this is probably you're going to be impacted the most, and this exercise will be most impactful for you. So the same thing. Look at, let's just say in the last 28 days, you've had 100 conversions with that 28-day click, 1-day view. Now switch it to a 7-day click and see what the difference is. In this example, I'm saying it's 25. This is just an example I'm using. So the change would be 75%. So then what I would note is for the future campaigns, I'm going to actually do a multiplier of 4, because I know typically, and mind you, this is if you have historical campaign performance, like a couple of months at least. If you haven't ran any campaigns, don't take my multipliers. This is not going to work for you. This is if you have historical data, an exercise you can do to understand what's a proxy that you could use for the future to better give credit to your Facebook ads. All right, some closing thoughts. Look, this is here to stay. Apple is a big company. They're very powerful, and they've made a decision on privacy. So we're not going to be able to turn around from this. The industry is recognizing that this is the direction we need to move on. Privacy is getting more important. Transparency is getting more important. So, this is not something we're going to be able to fight. The next thing is, as a brand, you have to understand how are ways that you can actually increase value with the data you're getting for consumers, so then you could have a better value proposition for them to share that information. And also, how can you develop systems where you're being transparent so you can build trust with these consumers and they're more willing to share their data over time? So hopefully this video has given you some good insight on how to navigate this. It's going to continue to evolve, so please continue to update yourself and stay on the latest with this topic. Hey guys, if you haven't done so already, make sure to check out my B2B cheat sheet for LinkedIn and Facebook ads that are going to help you design ads that are best in class to help you drive more ROI for your campaigns, specifically for B2B campaigns. So make sure to check that out. I'm going to put a link below in the description so you guys can grab it. Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Market and Hustle, where we simplify marketing so that you can accelerate your business growth. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.